thinking someday I might even just live in it, inside a dodecahedron. Okay, we have a dodecahedron. Dodeca means, no, that's deca. Dodeca means 10 plus 2, 12. 12 faces each are pentagons, okay? One pentagonal face, each edge has 108 degrees. You got 108 times 5 times 12 for 12 faces. 6,000. Well, are you shocked? Well, you probably could have predicted that that was 6480. Now, of course, we can try various combinations of these forms, and we'll discover that there are certain combinations that actually give us the measure of one great year. Oh, and then we have the star tetrahedron. So we have two interlaced tetrahedrons. The total measure of this would be 720 times 2. So we have the occurrence of our number 4, sacred number 1440 once again. If you look at these numbers, you'll notice one, maybe somebody's tried this already. What do they all have in common, those numbers up there? Any numerologists? Any number that's divisible by 9 can also Kabbalistically reduce to a single digit, which is, try it. Is there any number up there that doesn't add up and reduce to 9? How about 25,920? Two and 5 is 7, 7 and 9 is 16, 16 and 2 is 18, 1 and 8 is 9. They all add to 9. What do you suppose about the numbers that we found measuring the wheel of the great year? These numbers right here. Where is it? Right here. Is there any of these that add up to 9? How about all of them? All of them do. There's not one up there that doesn't add up and reduce to the single digit 9. And then, when we go to the Vedic numbers, we'll zip down here to where we left off. Here are the cycles of time that come down to us through the Babylonian cuneiform texts and the writings of Berossus, the pre-diluvian god kings of Sumeria. And there was 10 of them. And you'll notice that the number of years, whether, I don't know if necessarily we should take those as actual years, but certainly symbolically, we see number of years in the reigns. Look at those. Some of those numbers now should be looking familiar to you. We've seen some of them already. Notice that 64,800, the sequence of 648 recurs twice. Let's see, 4320 recurs, 2880. All of those numbers you'll notice they're in this system of measuring time also. Don't they all add to 9? Because they're all part of the same numerical system. Here we have ancient Babylonian writings, Sumerian origins. Notice the total number of years of the 10 antediluvian kings, or what does pre-diluvian mean? Before the flood. So clearly to the worldview of the ancient Babylonians, this flood was a major marker, a major turning point, from which they reckoned everything before and everything after that event. Now, do you think this flood that we've all heard about from our Sunday school days actually happened? Could there have actually, scientifically, geologically, is there evidence that there was? You think there is? I would agree with you. Okay, here's some Mayan world ages. The Baktun, which is 144,000 days. Have we seen this number before? Certainly we have. 7,200 days, 360 days, 20 days. And all of their cycles are built upon multiples of these. So when you start elaborating on these by multiplications, what you discover is that these numbers will recur over and over again. So like look at the first one, 144,000 days. So 2 Baktuns would then be 288,000 days, right? And if we go back to the Sumerian, let's see, do we find it 2880 up there? Yep, right there. Right there. See, these numerical systems are interlocked. And they use the same numbers to measure phenomena on a variety of scales. Now here's the tabulation of the Vedic ages. I was talking about earlier, the Kali, the Dwapara, the Treta, and the Satya. And you'll notice that their system begins with the Kali, and you'll notice how each of these is a multiple of the Kali. Double the Kali gives us the Dwapara, triple the Kali gives us the Treta, quadruple the Kali gives us the Satya. So you have a progression of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the total, the Mahayuga, the Great Yuga, is then the sum of these 4 ages, which 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is 10. So the sum then is 10 times this number. Notice how interesting, though, that the Vedic ages pick up where the Sumerian ages leave off. You see that? It's almost as if the Sumerians are in charge of this scale of frequencies, and then we get up to that 432,000 year mark, then we see the Vedas carry it from there onto these much greater cycles. Just some of the sources of this information. And how it was oftentimes encoded. We won't get into that right now, though. We'll proceed on. Generally, in the Judeo-Christian tradition, there's considered to be one destruction, which is attributed to Noah's flood. Of course, I think there are hints. If you go in and you read the account of Genesis, one of the things we encounter is that after Yahweh created Adam and Eve, he kind of gave them some marching orders, didn't he? He said, be fruitful and multiply. And then interestingly, King James carries the meaning over of the original Hebrew term when he says, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth and subdue it. And that to me carries the implication that what we might be seeing there is an echo of a much earlier tradition, that what we're actually seeing is like a rebooting of some sphere of human activity with the Adam and Eve story. And clearly, you know, the traditional, more fundamentalist view of that makes no sense when you consider that their eldest son, after he murders his brother, then departs and goes out to the land of Nod and takes a wife. So clearly, you know, the idea that Adam and Eve were the first, you know, I think that what we're seeing there is, you know, sacred history, symbolical history, and that, like I say, echoes of other traditions are to be found there. Like it says here, the Greeks knew of 3 successive destructions. And then, of course, the Aztecs and the Mayans talked about 4, as did the Hopi Indians. They talked about 4 successive destructions. The world year of the Persians, this was some scholars of Oriental studies who going into the Iranian tradition, found some interesting stuff, but in their work on the world year of the Persians, they note that the notion of cyclically recurrent cosmic disasters, a catastrophe by flood alternating with one by fire, has been traced from ancient Babylonia and Iran through Pythagorean and Stoic philosophy and thence into the medieval world.
So we're due for a big disaster.
Maybe, but maybe not. It all, I think, see, it gets us into a whole other issue, but I think that, you know, I think that at any time, it's never predetermined. There's always variable factors that can change the outcomes. Goes on to say here, same scholars say, in classical Greek and Hellenistic literature, the doctrine of the great year was already connected with the myths of the deluge and ekpyrosis. Ekpyrosis was you see the word pyro, which means fire. So you have the deluge being the destruction of the world by water, ekparosis by fire.